Are we live?
We are now. Yes, I
Okay.
hit the
Sorry.
magic button. That's all right, Annie. So let me do a quick introduction. I know you're eager, and I
No,
am
I'm
eager
sorry.
to hear you.
I'm
That's
like, let's
all right.
go.
Oh, I love the enthusiasm. So glad to have you back tonight.
Thank you.
So quickly, I'm Jonathan Haupt, the executive director of our nonprofit Pat Conroy Literary Center, coming to you from Beaufort, South Carolina. This is our free workshop tonight. Let's talk about book reviews, part two. And once again, we are joined by our wonderful instructor, Annie McDonnell. Annie was a book reviewer for Elle Magazine, and after that went on to found the uh, the Write Review, and then the much larger collaboration, the World of Write Review. And Annie has been honored in many ways for her generosity to the wonderful world of readers and writers, including but not limited to being a fellow recipient of the Doug Marlette Literacy Leadership Award given out by the Pulpwood Queens Book Club, and more recently having a book award named in her honor, which was just given out a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So we are thrilled and honored and as happy as we possibly can be to have Annie back with us tonight to talk about book reviews and the world of book reviewing. So thank you so much, Annie, and thank you everybody who's with us here in the Zoom room and everybody joining us out in Facebook land as well.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Jonathan. You're always so kind to me. I need to take you around with me everywhere I go. Um, so this is part two to Let's Talk Book Reviews, and it's been a while since we had part one. So I was going to give a real quick recap of the part one, just to go over things quickly to see if anybody had any questions about anything, and then delve deeper into if you wanted to be more of a professional reviewer, more than reading the book, leaving a Google or Goodreads or Amazon book review. What if you wanted to go further than that? So, I basically just wanted to, go over, um, why are the reviews so important to everybody? Especially, we do reviews because we want to save, we want to give a gift to all of the authors, right? We're reading their books. In reading their books, we're given this wonderful gift of they've spent a lot of time to write this book, right? And it's not going to take us long to, okay, sometimes it takes a long time to write a review. Not gonna lie, it does. But it doesn't take long for us once we have written it to share it all over the place. Um, but I have five simple ideas for writing reviews. So I just wanted to remind everybody. You can leave, 5 stars. Um, Everything's a high five. 5 adjectives. So you're stepping up your game. 5 adjectives, a sentence with 5 words, 5 sentences, and then you just, you keep going until you're leaving a bigger mark on your book review. Um, I want to remind everybody that, uh, my reviews are usually fours and fives, typically because I know before I read a book that I want to read the book, because I've done my research before I read the book. Um, I typically don't go blind into reading a book, um, which you really need to know. I call it know your audience, but it's really know your book. Don't if you don't, for example, if you don't like, this is a if you this is a really, I'm going to use it as an example here, but if you don't like southern fiction, don't read it because you're not going to like it. It's just because it's whole new, it's its own genre. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful genre, but if you're not going to enjoy southern stuff, you're not going to like it. It's the same thing with crime fiction. Don't read a crime book that's courtroom driven if you don't like courtroom drama, right? Try to stay in things that that you like. And I also have a theory of there's 45 people on a bus. We're all on a bus. If you don't like the book, write the review for whomever you think you're going to hand the book to. You know, you don't always have to write the review for yourself, especially as we're stepping into What if you want to be a professional, more of a professional reviewer? Um, then you're really speaking for the community. You're speaking for everybody. You're not just speaking for yourself anymore. You're stepping into a bigger role. You're accepting that you are speaking for other people. So you're going to want to speak for everybody. So there is going to be somebody else on the bus that you're going to want to speak for. There's so many books out there, and usually everybody likes the book, right? Because it's just typically like that. It's very rare that a book is not liked by somebody. Never slam a book. A book should never get below 3 stars if it's written well, edited well. Um, Never go into reading a book thinking this book needs to prove it's a good book to me. That's not how you should read a book. You should read a book where it has to disprove itself. Like it's the other way around, where you have to be shocked that it's done something wrong. It has to be the other way around. And it takes a lot for you to say, this book has done something wrong. Because it really has to is innocent until proven guilty. Because every author has its own voice, and you have to honor every author's voice. And and this book reviews part 2 is different. We're taking it a different way. You have to remember, now that I'm talking, what if you want to be a more professional type of reviewer? You have to remember, you are honoring authors. You're saying, I want to promote literacy in general. I want to promote authors that are good writers. I want to help authors. Um, so you have to remember all of that. And so you have to also, when you're writing your reviews, find your own voice. That's very important. You don't want to sound like other people. You really want it to be almost like a book, like a book has its own stamp. You know who wrote it. Like, a Pat Conroy book. You'd know a Pat Conroy book within a chapter. You wouldn't have to know who wrote it. You'd know it was his book, because it's really good Southern fiction, right? It's his. So you have to find what your voice is, how you want to deliver your review, not how everyone else is. So don't worry about how everyone else's looks or feels or sounds, because yours has to be your own. So yeah, look at other people's for like ideas or ways you might want to write your reviews if that's how you choose what you choose to do. But remember to be yourself and to be proud of however you're writing your reviews, because it's your voice yourself. I'm not going to go through how to write reviews because we did that last time, or how they should be written. But let me see. I do want to remind everybody, though, spoilers, no spoilers ever. And I'm even talking the slightest of spoilers. And I cringe so much because so many people do this. And it could be a slight. People give away quotes like crazy in a review. Um, the reader should have the luxury. They bought the book. They should have the luxury of finding these quotes themselves, of unfolding them themselves. They shouldn't read the review and find it that way. They're buying the author's work. They should be able to find the author's work themselves. That's how and again, this is how I feel about things. But I'm going to explain something also. Um, Also, you're not telling a retelling of the book unless you're working like for an editorial review, for a newspaper, for a journal. Those people are doing reviews differently. They are indeed doing it that way, right? So I'm not telling anyone how to do it that way, because they all have their own rules. I don't do it that way. So I'm not telling anyone that way. And those are right for those publications. So I'm not saying those are wrong. I'm saying it's wrong when we go in as writers on Amazon, because those are not published on Amazon. Those are not published on Goodreads. But when we're publishing those on Amazon and Goodreads, and we're giving a book like a whole, for example, I'm going to give you an example when we get there. Um, a spoiler could be the circumference of her character and who she was, and I laughed so hard because you thought she was Sunday school perfect grandma, and then you find this out about her. Well, I wrote my review, and then I read a bunch of reviews, and a bunch of people said, "Oh, I was so surprised that the grandma smoked weed." You're taking that moment that I had, that, oh my God, laugh out loud, belly laugh, away from everybody else that reads your review. They're never going to get that moment. And that's not a spoiler like, oh, somebody died. That's nothing major. So you don't think it's major. It's just aha moments. It's anything that gives you an emotional response. That's a spoiler. Okay. So that's why I always use, for me, I always use the rule. I don't tell anything more than what's on the back of the book, because that's what the authors already agreed to tell everybody. And that's for me, because I'm a professional reviewer that I choose to be. I'm not a professional reviewer for a newspaper or a journal, which is totally has different rules. Um, so if you decide that you want to step up your game from reading books and going to and writing reviews, and then you want to go into getting in contact with authors and maybe becoming a blogger, but you're a little nervous about starting a blog yet, what I did first was I started reviewing on somebody else's blog. I got comfortable with the whole blogging thing first, but I did the review for somebody else. And she really taught me all of the things I just said to you. She taught me how I was supposed to act accordingly with etiquette as a reviewer. And I've kept her rules. She's with Chicklet Plus. She has like over 1 million uh, followers. I mean, we're crazy. She has a ton of followers. Um, so she's doing something right. And I never went in to become a reviewer at like like New York Book of Journals or a newspaper, because I would not be good at it. Because I'm not good at detailing. When you want to become that type, like Jonathan's a type of reviewer like this. Holland's a type of reviewer like this, but they can do it because they're more professional than I am. They know how to take a book, they know how to analyze it, they know how to compare it to another book, they know how to talk about a period piece, they know how to talk about, was this author talking appropriately for that period? Were they really in the Southern fiction realm? You know, they can analyze a book to a T like that, right? I can't do that. I'm not I'm not that talented. You have to be primo to do that. You have to be very educated, literally. You have to be top of your game for that. And I'm not. Claire Fullerton's somebody that can do that. Diana White Paul can do that. I can't do that. That's totally different than what I'm talking. You need to go to school to learn how to do that, or have an education in English or literature. I'm talking you're a reviewer and you want to step up your game like in the middle of that. This is where I'm talking, where you want to be if you want to do something in the middle of that. So you want to start a blog, uh, and I think that's another reason why it's important that I don't talk about things like Jonathan talks about, because I can't be responsible for comparing things like this, because I admit I don't have that education. You know, I admit that I can only tell you how a book makes me feel. That's all I can do. And I think that a lot of people, that is all we really can do, because we're reading a book for entertainment. A lot of us are not reading a book for education, right? A lot of us are reading it for different reasons, but they are educational. I'm not saying they're not. We're just reading it for two different reasons. So, but when you are stepping away from, like Jennifer has, she's over at World of the Right Review. She was writing these awesome reviews, and I was like, oh, you have to start putting them up at the World of the Right Review. They're so awesome. You know, she's fantastic. And she has her own thing, does her own thing, and she's wonderful. And everybody over there, there's 8 of us, and we all have our own, everybody's doing their own thing, and we all sound different, and it's really, really neat. But we definitely all sound different, and everybody is on different authors street teams. They're reaching out to, how you start is you reach out to authors that you like. You reach out to, you like Jonathan's book, so what do? You start stalking him, basically, right? You start following his page. You start, um let's say you had a street team, you start following that. You start paying attention to everything he's doing. If it's someone like Kristen Harmel, you might send a letter to her publicist and say, I've been reviewing books since said year. Here's two of I reviewed her two last books. These are my reviews. You give them the reviews, and you say, I'm really interested in becoming an advanced reader for Kristen. Would you consider this? So there's a letter that you would send out to the publicist, and it always would include a review that you've written that has been on Goodreads or has been on Amazon or has been on a blog. It doesn't have to be your blog, a blog that you are on. Whether it be the Right Review, World of the Right Review. World of the Right Review is really not a blog, but you can still say that you're a reviewer at World of the Right Review on NetGalley. Now, another thing that you can do that's a lot of fun, there's a lot of pages that you can join. There's NetGalley, which is the top one that you can join. Now, on that, when you're filling out your profile and stuff, it's really cool if you can say, I put my reviews over at World of the Right Review, and that means you share them over there. You don't, none of them. Jennifer will tell you she doesn't like work at World of the Right Review. She doesn't have to put reviews up. It's when she reads a book and she wants to share it, she shares the review. It's her. She does as she chooses over there. But at NetGalley you can say, I put my reviews over at World of the Right Review. They can see there's 2,000 people over there, so you have this automatic larger audience. Bookish First also has thing where you can win books. Now I'm going to leave that for last. This is my favorite. Book Siren has free books. Book Browse. What I should do is give out a white sheet that you can hand out tomorrow, or that we can put up in the Facebook group. Library Thing has free books. Idlewise has, like the German name, has free books. Libro has free audibles that you can get every month, and they're the top books. These are all top books, and all of the books that the publishers have. It's fascinating. It's just fascinating. So what you do is you start reviewing one at a time, and you turn it in. You do another, you turn it in, and you start getting your percentages. Oh, they're turning in 100% of the reviews, and you start looking really good to the publishers. They're like, oh my gosh, they're turning in all their reviews. They're really doing this. This is wonderful. Meaning you're telling them, look, I'm putting my reviews on Amazon or Goodreads. Those are the two main ones that they look for. Now, there's a lot of other places you can put reviews too, but so you start doing that. But I always say the first thing to do if you want to become more involved in book reviews, is be honest with yourself and say, who are the top 5 to 7 authors that I know I want to follow every single year. I want, no matter what, I want to review their book every time it comes out. I want to review their book. Like for me, David Bell's one of them. You know, I made T-shirts last summer that said it's a David Bell summer. You know, because, and I had the book club wear them. I don't know if anyone remembers, but, and then I made a video. You know, like, because he comes out with a book every summer, and you bet I'm going to read it and I'm going to review it. That's just, you know, and I wait for it. Sarah Ackerman's becoming one. You know, you get these recurring authors, but what I do is like along the way, I'm like Pigpen, like I pick up like new debut authors along the way, and I add to them, add to that list if I really love that debut author's new book. But there's also this really cool site, you guys, called Book Sirens. Have you ever used it, Jonathan? Okay. All right. So this site is so cool. If anyone's written reviews, you can go to it today and you check this out. So you go to Book Sirens, you fill out all this information. It asks you, do you have a blog? Do you have an Amazon account? Do you have a Goodreads account? And you answer all these questions. And then all of a sudden it goes, and it says, you are in our top 5% of reviewers. You are in the top 5% of reviewers. You are in the top, you know, you are the top 20% of reviewers for debut authors. You read 20% of your books are women's fiction. Da da da, and it gives you these breakdown lists, which are completely insane. And what you do is you then use this list, these different, they have all different kinds of models, but you can use this to then what? Put in your letter to the publicist and say, I'm in the top 5 of reviewers, and I am known for most of the books that I read are not from top 5 publishers, because that's what I'm known for. I'm known, I mean, not everyone likes to hear that, but I don't read mostly top 5 books, top 5 publishing house books. I'm known for reading more independent, more, I don't know what they call it, but they say, oh, Mike, she doesn't read top 5 publishers. She prefers the other ones, you know. So I use that from Book Browse all the time. I take pride in that, you know. And I'm not saying it's bad to read the other books. I just like reading the other books as well. But it gives you a breakdown of so many different things. It'll tell you, you'll say, wait a second, I read a horror? I didn't know I read a horror book, like stuff like that. I mean, it tells you so much information about it's your book review report card. That's really what it is. And it's really a lot of fun to learn more about yourself, because what happened was I learned that, okay, wait, I need to read more of this because evidently I liked it. And it also tells you what do you feel is your most unsung hero of a book, which is so cool. What is your what is the book that you love so much, that like the unsung hero, but it's a different type of thing. But it's very interesting. They really analyze your reviews like there's no tomorrow. It's a lot of fun. So bookbrowse.com, and you can get free books from them as well, from this culmination that it brings up for you. And I check it all the time. I'm always checking to see what has it done for, what is it going to do for me now. Now, also, you're going to want to, I'm addicted to this too, start reading articles that you like about books, and stick to the same articles. Like, I love Blue Mountain Review. Now I'm starting to love the one that Low Country that Jonathan has me addicted to. She reads Pop Sugar, Parade, Goodreads, New York Times, Elle Magazine. I mean, I started there. Have to keep reading it. Brooklyn Rail, which has very, 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 very independent books, like books that you would not find in New York Times, you know. But So I have the list of articles, and I make sure I check it off that I have read all of those articles every week. And so I read those every week, and I make sure I read them. And then I have sites that I make sure I follow every week on, and then I have the days that I am to look at them. And it's days that I know that a certain person on that site will write something, because usually they're very organized on when they have certain posts come out. And I have a note that says, read all things like a boss, you know, because I take notes when I read, and everybody doesn't have to do that. Some people can read like a boss just by reading it, but I dig deep, and I read it, and I analyze, and it takes me a long time to really, um, before I write a review, I have to think long and hard about what I'm going to write. Not everybody's like that, but some people are different. You know, what makes your reading the book like a boss, you know? Um, and when you're reading these articles, when you're reading these things, be the same way, like a boss. Which things are you reading about? Pick out salt and pepper, like which books are you going to want to read? That's what I do. Which books are you going to want to review? I mark them down, and I contact those authors or their publicists or whomever, and that's how I either get the book, or I get it on NetGalley, or I get it on Idlewise. I get the books that I need to read, you know, one way or the other. You can get the books that you want to read and review, as long as you're asking for them religiously and in advance, and doing the reviews. Um, and always, make sure, if people are commenting on your review when you post it, respond to them. If somebody doesn't agree with you, it's fine. Just always say, okay, that's what's I loved it. Sorry you didn't, or whatever. Just keep moving on. Not everybody's going to agree with you. Just remember that. Just always remember that. That's very important to remember. Don't argue with anyone. It's not worth it. Because they will not remember you the next day. I promise you that. They've moved on. Also, when you're reading reviews, especially if you want to be more involved in reviews, as you're reading the reviews and you like it, click like. Just click like, because the author gets extra points for those like clicks, just like a review. So if you're like, before I do an interview, I always read reviews. So I read the book. I read the book, and then right before the interview, I read a bunch of reviews, because I want to know, what are people really liking about the book. So what do I want to bring up on the interview? Like, how am I going to elevate this interview to make it very interesting for the viewer? So I will click like on the review, because it gives them extra points in some cyberland out there. I don't know how it works, but it does somehow. If you can start a dialogue with an author at some point, like if you're watching an interview, or you're at, when they're at a takeover, and they start corresponding with you, and you are in a dialogue with them, keep a dialogue going. Tell them that you're a reviewer. Tell them that, say, I am a reviewer. Stick, you are a reviewer. That's just what I started doing. I mean, I was a reviewer before, because it was a long time ago. It was before MySpace, but like, you have to like stand in your truth, that's what you are. I know, like Serena Soap, if you're watching, I know at first she was kind of shy about that. She was shy about telling authors, oh, but I'm a reviewer, I'd like to review your book. I don't think she has a problem anymore. But also, make sure you read the book all the way through before you leave a review, or don't leave one at all. You can't say, I didn't finish the book, so I'm going to give it 3 stars because I just couldn't finish the book. It was awful. Well, you know what? That's not fair, because some books, that author has you snailing through until you get to 75%, and then boom, they hit you with something and you go, oh my God, it was so worth it. So you have no clue what's going on. You have no clue, and you have no right to say, you know what, I stopped it at 25% and it's not worth it, you guys. So you can't do that. You have no idea why a slow burn is happening. You have no clue why anything's occurring. It's not fair. It's not justice. You have to finish a book before you write a review. Um, and anyone will tell you that. I hear that everywhere. Now, okay, let me see about the quotes. Always review a book by its intentions, not by yours. That's very important. That's the same. It's the same thing as I was saying, by its genre or whatever. Like I don't like when there's erotica in books. I don't, and that's because I have baggage. I have personal baggage, so I don't like that. I also don't like cursing in books. Again, personal baggage. There's reasons for that. So if when I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my God, oh, this is awful. Oh my God, I can't stand this. But then when I read the synopsis, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even check that out. The publicist called me. I told the publicist I would read it. Sure, I'll read it by Friday. I got you. I'll read it by Friday. It was my fault. I didn't read that it is an erotica book. So it wouldn't be, how dare I then turn around and say, oh my God, this book, it was so, I didn't like it. I can't do that because that's not, the author was writing a book not meant for me. It wasn't meant for me to read it. It was meant for somebody that likes books like that, because a lot of people do. I probably did at some point in my life, just not anymore. Everyone goes into books and stories carrying the weight on their shoulders from their history of things that happened in their life. And you have to remember that. So, and that's why they always say you have to remember alerts for what is it called? They alert you, like if there's like a rape or if there's trauma alerts or whatever. So like so that you're not shocked that there's a rape in the show, in the show. You can tell I'm a method reader, you guys, just so you know. So I read I read like I'm one of the characters in the book, and I get very, very into it. So yeah, I do read it like it's a show. All right. So that's that. Now that that's out there. There are those, it doesn't mean that I won't read a book that has like a rape in it. Let's say that's hard for me, because some people can write it very well. It's just everything's different. Everybody's different. So the point I'm getting at is that read the story for the intention of for which it is written. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm getting tongue tied. Now, because there are so many reviews that I read that will say things like that. Oh, there was cussing. Oh, there was this. But if you see it, the author will say, if you don't mind cursing, da 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 da. Or, ooh, a character. Okay, I don't like cursing, but one character in one of the books I read did curse, and it was because of some trauma she had. And she had to get over the trauma by the end of the book, and it stopped her from the cursing. It was like a shield that like protected her from people wanting to talk to her, because she was so so rough and tumble. Well, if a whole bunch of people in the reviews stopped reading the books, they couldn't stand it, and they were like, it was awful, and so I decided to write to one lady, because she ripped the book apart. So I wrote to her privately, and I said, I just want to ask you a question. If you read the book and you knew that she was doing this because she was traumatized, and you found that out later in the book, Would your opinion change? She said, absolutely. Yes, it would. I said, then you need to finish the book. So people are we're all quick to judgment. We all are. And I just like to try to remind people to not do that, because we're not the writer, we're the reader, and we don't know what we're getting. We don't know what's being said to us until we get to the last sentence. Because you often know that last sentence can sometimes give us whiplash. You never know. So just remember that. And in case there's an author here, I don't know, or ever watches this, well, besides you, Jonathan, but you already know all this. How can an author get more reviews or reviewers? So search for bloggers that are reading your genre, specifically, only your genre, not just really cool bloggers. Search for people who are reading your genre, but bloggers and even professionals that are in the fields related to your genre. And then just start commenting. You don't necessarily have to ask them to read your book. Start commenting and start being part of that community, because that is where all of your followers are, on those blogs and on those pages. Your community is there on those pages. They're all there. And that's where they are. And I think what happens is authors tend to only go to the blogger. They don't go to the readers, like below. Now, I don't mean below. I just mean like the people that are the members. They don't go to the members. They forget that it's that whole group below them, all the members that are part of that group, because they love that genre too, that the blogger likes. So they're there for that very reason. So start, hanging out with that crew too. And try to get in their newsletter. Can I write an article for your newsletter? It's more than just advertising your book in the newsletter. You want to write an article for the newsletter. You want something to stand out, because people are seeing books all over the place on the internet. When they're reading the newsletter, they want to see an article. People are wanting to see articles. I asked around a lot of people. They want us to see different things, so okay. And does anyone have any questions?
Annie, there are a couple of comments and questions in the chat. Nancy
Okay.
Brock, who's with us, asked about, let me scroll up. Apologies, Nancy, I don't have it right in front of me. Here we are. Nancy asked how many folks were posting hashtag Friday Reads on Twitter and participating in that. Is that something that you do, Annie, or are familiar with?
No, I never. No, I don't. I really, I really stick in the Facebook community.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I have so much to do in it. You know, there's just I'm doing 50,000 things in the in the world of the right review. I'm even slowing down on the Instagram, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people within World of the Right Review that are not going off to do that. And that's very interesting that's really good to know, because we like to teach people at World of the Right Review about things like that. And that's the reason for World of the Right Review, is that we want to show the authors and the readers where to go to learn about more reviewers and more reading and writing, more classes and stuff like that all over the internet. So Friday Reads on Twitter. That's really cool to know. Thank you.
Yeah. And
I think she's talking. You're on
yep,
mute.
Nancy, you're on mute. So if you're
You're on
trying
mute.
to ask a question, we can't hear you. There you go.
Yeah, comment. I like Twitter because you get an instant reaction with authors and publishers. And I have gotten several ARCs, or advanced reader copies, to review. And I post review, just a blurb, which Twitter is
Right.
essentially. Um, and I have gotten reactions for the authors who just think that's great, and the publishers retweet it.
Oh, yeah.
And I've gotten, I think one time I got a retweet from Simon and Schuster for 600 readers, 600 people following them on Twitter.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah, Twitter's good for that. Instagram's good for that. You know, all social media is good for things like that. There's bookstagrammers, that you can share. Thank you, Nancy. That you can share your reviews. But there, again, it's the short snippet because they don't allow a full gambit, if you will, on Instagram. But Twitter's a lot of fun. Is for the short snippet like that. I like that. It's not enough for me because I always have something to say. But I have a Twitter account just in case I need to do something over there. But I'm really Facebook centric, and but I mean, people are going YouTube to and think, verbal book reviews on YouTube. People are doing book talk reviews. There's all sorts of ways that you can do book reviews. I'm trying to say how you can get reviews on Amazon and Goodreads where you are helping the author get points to sell their books. Because that's the Twitter is awesome. That's going to get them readers. Absolutely, 100%. If you want to delve into all the other ways you can do reviews, oh my gosh, that's day 3. That's day 3, right? Because there's so many ways. Because now there's book talk where people are like, they're moving back and forth. They're giving their review for a hot second. That's really interesting. I'm just glad I'm old now. That it's too old. I'm too young. I'm too old to do book talk. But my husband's like, you need to do book talk. I'm like, no, no, no. But yeah, there's all those wonderful things. I mean, I know authors that got book contracts on Twitter. Like The Family Tree with Nicole Mabry and Steph Mullen. Book talk. I mean, on Twitter, they got a 2-book deal. And one of them's in the UK. Like, oh my God. Yeah, Twitter's really awesome. It's just hard to have a book community over there.
But I think that's a key point, and it's one you mentioned earlier when you're giving advice for how writers can connect with more reviewers and just be more connected with their community in general. And that's a point that I think is often lost on a lot of debut authors. They've been working, secluded location in their office, hammering out the greatest novel in human history without actually participating in the community as readers. So when they walk into their local independent bookstore for the first time and say, "Hey, I'm a local author. Can I do a signing here?" If you're a local author and your local bookseller doesn't recognize you, doesn't already know that about you,
They should know you.
you've probably skipped a couple of steps. You've
Correct.
missed out on something. The same with your librarian, the same with everybody in your community of readers and writers. You've got an obligation and an opportunity to participate in all of those ways other than just being the writer of a book. And
Because they want to know who you are.
yeah,
They want to
yeah,
celebrate you in your
hmm
local community.
yeah.
I mean, if you're near Beaufort, forget it, right? I mean, it's just these. I mean, that you're a prime example of just this awesome town that swallows the authors and loves them and yummy. Like I'm in New York and I know every little author down by the creek. Like it's just, oh, it's so wonderful. And I know on Long Island we're trying to do that for the people that are running book clubs online. We're trying to like find out who our authors are locally and trying to meet up. So we're trying to do the same thing. But it is hard when authors are not trying to come out because then they're not always trying to come out, and I think it's because they're shy. They don't feel, a lot of authors are scared to advertise themselves. But you shouldn't be. I tell everybody it's your job. That's your business. That book is your business. So you should be fine showing that to everybody. Totally fine showing that off to everybody. I mean, I walk around with a clear bag at the when I go to get my infusion, and it always has the book I'm reading facing out. So I always know somebody in that room is going to say, what is that book in there? Meanwhile, I'm reading on my iPad or whatever. But it's, I want people to ask me, what book is that? I always have a book with me, and I'm not an author. So, authors should always have books. Do you always have a book with you, Jonathan?
Almost always, yeah. I mean, it's rare that I don't. If I'm going somewhere where I know I'm going to have a minute or 2 minutes or whatever to read, I will always have a book that's going to fill that time with me. Yeah.
Right.
And I hope people are noticing. I hope that. George has asked a question in the chat. George, unmute and ask it, or do you want me to just ask it from what you've put in the chat there?
Oh,
No, you can just read it.
Okay. So George's question is an important one, I think. He says,
okay.
Do you do this for a living? Where does the money come from? Or is this just genuine sharing of intellectual material?
This is, for me, pure love of reading. This is pure love of supporting authors. That's how it started. I won a contest with Elle Magazine, writing a review. They wanted reviewers. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to jump on this, and I'm going to write a review for Pride and Prejudice. Didn't think I'd ever be chosen, and I was. But I'm on disability, and this just keeps me busy, and pretty busy. But I love doing this, and I love promoting authors so much, and I love the readers, and I love everything about it. Like, it's kind of disgusting. I just really, I can't stop. I'm up at 3 a.m, and I'm already doing stuff with it. It's like it's the first thing I think of. It's the last thing I think of. It's just really weird. And it's been like this for 2 decades. So like it's not waning. It's nothing. If this could have been a job, it would have been my job for sure. It should have been my job. I mean, that's the truth. It should have been my job.
To kind of add a little bit to your answer and to George's question, I also do it for free. I review and do author interviews for 2 publications. I'm very happy to do it. The only payment I get, other than the satisfaction of having contributed to the community, is a free copy of the book. But there are publications, both print and online, that absolutely do pay their freelance reviewers. Not a significant amount, I will say. You got to do a ton of them for it to make any kind of impact on your income one way or the other. But there are outlets out there that can do that, and there are also directories of that. There are a couple of author resource sites or reader resource sites that have listings of those publications that pay reviewers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if New York. I don't know if they pay the New York Book Journal, whatever, Book Review Journal, or Kirkus. I know they get paid to put reviews up. So
Yes.
I hope they're paying somebody.
That is definitely another side of the business. There are those publications, both big and small, where you, as a writer with a book, can pay to have a review expedited. No guarantee it'll be a positive.
No guarantee it'll be good either.
No, it will be reviewed, yeah. And generally those publications, I won't say this is universal truth because I don't know it is universally true, but generally those publications pay their freelance reviewers. But it's kind of the difference between what you pay the plumbing company and then what the plumber himself actually gets paid by the company.
I don't think you can. You can't live. I don't think you can live to be a reviewer anymore. You could back when they were in the magazines, back when I first started, because they were all the time. The reviews were in the magazines all the time, in print. But when everything started going online, like 2011, everything started stepping back. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God. Not that I was ever getting paid, but I was like, I'm not going to be able to do what I love to do anymore. But, but yeah, a lot of book reviewers were losing their jobs. Movie reviewers, things like that. So yeah, it changed its scope. But anyway, there's all kinds of ways that you can do the book reviewing if you look into it further and further and further.
Thanks.
Thank you, George.
Annie, Echo, and Serena are both watching from Facebook land, along with a bunch of
Oh,
other
really?
people who are making some nice comments out there and
Hello.
appreciating the advice you're offering tonight.
Oh, geez. They taught me everything I know. I love them.
I have one question for you, and we're getting close to running out of time. So if anybody else
Okay.
has any questions, now is certainly an opportunity as well. When I'm reviewing a book, particularly a brand new book, I both want to read what other reviewers have read, and I don't want to read what other reviewers have read, because I don't want to be influenced, and I don't want to just repeat things that have already been said.
Right.
But if 6 other reviewers have noticed something and I've missed it entirely, then I feel like maybe I need to revisit that book. So before I do my own review. But I'm wondering, where you stand on that. Do you read other reviews for something that you're going to review, or do you just try to hit it cold with just the publisher information in front of you?
I have already read a ton of reviews before I'd even inquired about reading it. Oh, if I've inquired, if an author has asked me to read a book, I've read a bunch of reviews. Often, if they're asking me to read a book, they're sending you those snippets that come from the authors because they're not out yet. So I've read a bunch of stuff already. I've dove pretty deep. But sometimes the reviews,
you have to know who wrote it. You'd know it was.
sometimes the reviews have to be written before it's published, so you can't read reviews yet. But if I can, I do read them because I don't want to sound like it. I don't want to repeat anything. I don't ever want to repeat anything. Like that's just me though. I don't want to repeat anything. I don't worry about let everybody talk about that chair that was in the second guest bedroom. I don't have to talk about it because they've already heard it 50 times. I don't need to mention it. That's how I feel. I need to be the person that's talking about the third guest room that had the black roses that nobody mentions. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I agree with you that's generally my leaning as well too. I would rather discover the book and write a candid review of my own experiences with it than try to hit the same points that everybody else has hit. And maybe they're hitting those same points because they've actually read each other's reviews too.
I think that's what happens. And then reviewers, when they're going through it, I mean, they say 45% of book reviewers don't buy a book until they've read reviews. So like if they're reading all the reviews and they all sound the same, you want to have like a pals of different things in there, even if it's 1 or 2 sentences. I mean, Jonathan, your reviews are different. My reviews are different. And Jennifer's are different, and that's what makes them all so cool. So if somebody came to read a review on a book that the 3 of us read together, they get 3 100% totally different reviews, totally different thoughts, and they would know by the time they're finished with these 3 whether they want to read that book or not. So.
And that's a great service to be able to provide readers to a range of opinions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You like to read what, George? Let me see. He says, an avid reader of, I'm sorry, just about any genre, sports, the Civil War, the law, World War II. I write a review for each book I read. I do not share these with anyone. So you write the review, but you don't share them? You don't share them on Amazon?
I don't even share them in my house.
Oh my gosh. So it's like a hobby. I love it. I mean, that's, it's funny because a lot of people take on writing reviews as an exercise. It's a way to elevate your writing, especially if you want to be a writer or you are a writer.
And you're reading.
Yeah, exactly. And you're actually reading. You're learning to, you're continuing your education, right? Because you're writing like an essay about that said book. So a lot of people do that. That's really cool. George, you could publish these things.
No, forget about it.
That's interesting. I like that. I know Holland, or Jonathan and Holland, you put together, or I think, or you wrote it, the one on the final girl cut, the murder book. Woo! Okay, that book I can never read, first of all. And there's I mean, my best friend was murdered.
Oh.
So yeah, I would be the last. I am that girl, the last girl, like standing. So but I loved how that was written. That was so wonderfully done, and totally sells the book perfect in such a wonderful way that I was really upset that I couldn't read it.
Well, that's still high praise from you, Annie. So
Oh, thank you.
That.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I just think it would do some damage to me. I don't know though, but I think it would. The Last Girl Support Group, is that it?
The Final Girl Support Group.
The Final Girl Support Group. Yeah.
Which is Grady Hendrix, a New York Times bestselling horror writer. It's being turned into a TV series for HBO Max already. A lot of good things happening for that writer in that book.
Well,
but Holland and I read it from completely different perspectives, and then sort of figured a way to bring both of those perspectives into one review, which was a really nice
really neat. It was really neat. I really enjoyed it. Maybe one day I could tell you real quick my scenario, and you could tell me a real quick rundown, and then you could tell me if this would traumatize me or not. Because it does sound like the kind of book that could scare me to death, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also a book about surviving trauma, about what happens after a traumatic experience. And it's very uplifting and empowering in that way, too. So maybe. We'll see. Cool. All right. We'll have to see. So I really appreciate everyone, wanting to know more about my opinions on how book reviews should be done, or how I do them, or how you could become more involved in becoming a book reviewer. Again, these are opinions, and these opinions are only mine. I do like to spread as much knowledge as I can, because I'm not going to be doing this much longer. So I definitely want to get more people reading reviews or writing reviews. So please spread this around, get more people to watch it. And I'll be back talking about how to open your own book club next. That's right. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat, and I'll add this to Facebook as well with a link to sign up for Annie's next workshop, which is August 10th, 7:30 p.m. And just like this one, there's a way to join in the Zoom room or to watch it on Facebook Live during or afterwards as well. And I'm so grateful to you, Annie, for doing these workshops for the Conroy Center. And
I'm so honored. I'm so honored, Jonathan. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to host you every time. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you, everybody. It was nice seeing you in person, Jennifer. Nice meeting you, Brooke and George and Nancy.
Thanks very much.
Good seeing you again, Annie.
You too. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, good night. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.